بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم افتح علينا بحكمتك وانشر علينا برحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله في كل لمحة ونفس عدد ما وسعه علم الله. يا عليم علمنا من علمك ما ترضى به عنا ولا تؤاخذنا بما تعلمه منا. يا حليم خلقنا بخلق الحلم وحققنا بحقائق العلم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. The last part of the creed, which is implied in this poem but not explicitly dealt with, is belief in as-sam'iyat, the things heard, meaning by that the things that we have heard from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you have the three basic components of the creed: divinity, what we believe about God, and then prophecy, what we believe about the prophets, and then finally what we believe about the unseen that has been taught to us by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and by the prophets before. These beliefs in the unseen, the things heard, are primordial beliefs. And if you study world religions and ancient religions and so-called primitive religions, the religions of micro-societies, you'll see that you find these all over humanity. So these are beliefs that were given to human beings from time, from ancient times. And it's one of the fallacies of some scholars that, if they find that the ancient Egyptians believed in the Day of Judgment, which they believed in very clearly, as did other people, then they will say that this begins with them or this belief was taken from there. And this is not the case at all. These are beliefs that are instinctive in the human heart. They were put in us when our Lord created us and when He manifested Himself to us in the day of Alastu bi Rabbikum. They are taught by the prophets throughout history. The belief in the garden and the fire is a primordial belief. You find it among all peoples, Native Americans, you find it among Indo-Europeans. The Hindus have beliefs in different heavens and hells. The Buddhists have belief in different heavens and hells and things like this. So these are primordial beliefs. And again, in our belief, in the creed, we must believe in everything that our prophet taught us, that we know is his teaching because of the fact that it's in the Quran or because it is in authentic hadith. Okay, so you must be very careful. I must be careful that we never disbelieve in these fundamentals, because to do so is disbelief. If we do not believe in the garden and the fire, it's disbelief. And we cannot believe in the garden and the fire, for example, as metaphors or as legends or as tales that are told to children to make them not misbehave. This is not the truth. These are cosmological realities. And belief in them is predicated on your belief in God. Those who do not believe in these beliefs are people who do not know their Lord, and they do not know the reality in front of them. They're people who take this customary reality as if it independently existed, as if it had no cause, as if it were not created. So we need to look at the world right, and we must believe that God creates whatever He wills. When it comes to things that are transmitted to us from the Blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that are not sahih, they are not authenticated, and they come to us through good hadith, hasan transmissions, or through da'if or weak transmissions, you must also be very careful to respect them. We have many people today, this is a sickness of the modern age, that if they find a hadith that is weak, they say, هذا hadith da'if. This is a weak hadith, as if they were to say that this is false or this is a fabrication. And as Shaykh Hamza and others have made it very clear, a da'if hadith is weak because its chain of transmitters is not as strong as others. But there is a presumption that this is what the Prophet taught. It may be that the words are not exactly his words. There may be some mistake in the transmission, but you have to be really careful not to reject weak hadith. In law, we don't follow them except in the Hanbali school. The Hanbali school raises the weak hadith to a very high level. But especially in issues that pertain to belief in the hereafter, the garden and the fire, we respect these, because you never want to be in a position where you have rejected or mocked something that the Prophet actually said, but which may have reached you by a weak transmission. So we have to be people of courtesy. We have to be people of precaution. And we have to be people who, are very careful never to put ourselves in a position of denying anything that the Prophet taught or may have taught, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inshallah, we will take these verses 16, 17, 18, and 19 at the end of the class, and with that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, finish the reading of the poem. But among the things that we believe in that are required belief is that the human soul, once created, lasts forever. So your ruh, your spirit, which is the essence of our being, this will never cease to exist. We will go from one stage to another. We live in this life. We seek to nourish our souls and to believe with strong belief, and the soul will live in the next world, which is the world of the grave, and then it will be resurrected and given a body again, and then it will be brought for the judgment, and it will go to the fire or to the garden. May Allah make us all people of the garden. So the human soul is indestructible. It lasts forever by the will of God. And it is one of the greatest things that God created. And that's why, your life is so important. What you do with the trust of your soul that was given to you. We believe that all human beings have an ajal, that we have an allotted time. You will not live longer than that allotted time, and you will not live shorter than that allotted time. We believe also that our provision is allotted to us as well, and we have to acquire it properly. We have to seek to get it as halal and not as haram, but it is allotted. If you are a wealthy human being, you would have been wealthy anyway. So be sure that you take that wealth in a way that is right. And if God does not give us ample provision, and we're poor, then that was also allotted. So we are patient, we are upright, we do not cheat, we do not steal, we do not have envy of others, and so forth. The belief in the resurrection is among the most important of all the beliefs that we believe. And we believe that the human body will be resurrected. This belief in physical resurrection, that you will be given a new body, and that in that body will be placed the soul that you have now and that you had in the world before this. This is a primordial belief. It is also an ancient Christian and Jewish belief. We talked a little bit about the fact that the traditions of the children of Israel are much vaster than anything represented by the Bible that exists today. And some people, when they look at the Bible and then they make generalizations about Jewish belief, for example, will say that Jews don't believe in the judgment, they don't believe in the resurrection. This is all false. These things are very clear in the rabbinical tradition, and they are very clearly indicated in other sources of the religion of the Jews and the Christians. So the belief in physical resurrection is required in rabbinical Judaism just as it's required in traditional Christianity. These are standard beliefs. We believe that the human body is recreated from the coccyx, the us, which is the lower part of the spinal column. This is God recreates the body from this, and when the bodies are recreated, for the judgment, they are given forms that reflect their spiritual and moral qualities. Believers are given very beautiful forms. May Allah make us all like that. And the believer is created according to the Adamic stature. And Adam was very large. Adam was like, if you look at this building complex that is over here, I estimate it's about 30 meters tall. These buildings that are over here to the left, Adam would be twice that tall. Adam was 60 cubits tall, 60 dhira', and this is established in Sahih, in authentic hadith. You will also be like this. We will be like this. The believer is beautiful. The believer, the men have no beards. They have long hair. The men and the women, their forms are very beautiful. No matter what they look like in this world, all of them are given very beautiful forms in the hereafter. And the disbelievers and those who were sinful, their forms also reflect the way they lived. Right? يُعْرَفُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ بِسِيمَاهُمْ. So the Quran says that those who committed crimes, those who did wrong, they will be known by their marks. Tyrants and corrupt judges, will be resurrected blind. Those who are conceited in their deeds and proud of their actions, about how much they prayed and how much they fasted, and who act out of the hypocrisy of show, they will be resurrected deaf and dumb. The hypocritical preacher, may Allah protect us from that. People who do not practice what they preach, they will be resurrected with long tongues that loll out from their mouths over their chests, and pus will come out of their mouths. All of the physical states will reflect their moral states. Those who were bad neighbors, they will be resurrected with their arms and their feet cut off. Those who turned innocent people over to rulers to be tortured or punished or killed or whatever, they will be brought forth crucified on the trunks of burning trees. Those who were devoted to lust and who did not give charity will come forth as decaying cadavers. Those who were proud and arrogant and self-deluded, we're talking about a different category of people than the believer who was proud of what they did, they will come forth wearing robes of tar. The adulterer and the fornicator, they come forth in the shape of apes. Those who consumed unlawful money, taxes and usury and things like that, they come forth in the form of swine. So the forms of the people in the resurrection indicate what kind of lives they were, what kind of things they did. After the resurrection, All human beings are gathered to the place of gathering. And all of the earth before this is pulverized. There are no buildings anymore. There are no mountains anymore. There are no rivers anymore. And all the continents are brought together as we're taught they were in the beginning. So the earth is one huge plain. It is level. And all humanity and all of the jinn, all of the spirits are resurrected and brought there. And then the angels come down in ranks. And the angels guide the believers to the place of judgment, meaning that the angels beckon you and they go before you. And the angels drive the disbelievers to the places where they are to be judged, meaning that the angels go behind them and they drive them as if they were herding them. The sea, all the rivers, all the lakes, all the seas, they become one ocean that surround the earth, and then the water turns into fire. It burns. And the garden, which is like a huge planet, the garden, we'll talk about it, is 7 gardens, but the garden is another world. It exists now, although it's not accessible. But it will be brought near the earth so that you can see it. And the fire also, which is like another planet, another world, it will also be brought near. And so people will see this. And we are then brought to the gathering place, the mahshar. And it's also called the maqam, the station, because this is where we stand for judgment. وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ, that whoever fears the station of their Lord, they'll have 2 gardens, meaning that you should fear that day when you stand before your Lord, which for the disbeliever is like 50,000 years. And the greatest torment of all, the greatest difficulty and tribulation that any human being has is on the day of gathering, as you wait there to learn your destiny, that who were you really? What did you do? Okay, so all of them are brought together. This is the gathering. And then from that you have the judgment. In the judgment, people are judged according to their actions, and we believe that after the judgment, we are taken to the balance, which is called the mizan. And the balance is after the judgment, and in the balance is a huge balance, and in it, our words and our deeds are weighed. All of this, in this world, for example, we build buildings, we, make things, we do things. These are the things that are real. But in the next world, we will see that the things that are real and the things that last forever, they are the things that we say. They are the things that we do. And all of these things will be given form. All of them have a reality, as if we create them. So this is very important, that when we speak, when we act, you're acquiring deeds, but these are created deeds, and they will be recorded for you in your book, and you will meet with these, and these will be weighed on the day of judgment. And in the scales you have a balance of light, where good deeds are placed, and there is a balance of darkness where bad deeds are placed. And the scale is exact to an atom's weight. We all weigh our deeds individually, and we also weigh our deeds as communities. So all the deeds of the Muslims in the end will be weighed, the community of the Prophet ﷺ. The deeds of the followers of Jesus will be weighed. The deeds of the followers of Moses will be weighed. The deeds of all people who were before. Then after this, there are the quenching pools, the hawd. And the Prophet has a quenching pool, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is said that it has 4 sides, that each side of the pool is like a month's travel. The water in it is sweet like milk. It has the fragrance of musk. And there are millions of large cups that are placed along the side of the pool. And those believers who truly believed and who did good deeds, who did not innovate, who were not oppressors or tyrants, who are not going to be punished, they will then meet the Prophet at his quenching pool, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he will give you your cup. You have a cup which is yours with your name on it, and he will give you from the water of the quenching pool, and when you drink that, then you'll never thirst again. And the water of the quenching pool comes from the garden. So we'll talk about the traverse in a minute, but the traverse, which is the bridge that goes from earth to the garden over the fire. This has also on it a spout above it that brings the water of Kawthar, of the river of Kawthar, over the traverse and to the quenching pool. And once you drink of that, then you'll never thirst again. The men and women of the garden drink and they eat and they enjoy everything they do, but they don't drink or eat out of need. They're never hungry again. They are never thirsty again. Their needs are all met. But they drink and they eat for pleasure. They get great pleasure in that. It's also said that every prophet has a hawd. Every prophet has a quenching pool. And the Prophet tells us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he hopes that the believers that he receives at his quenching pool will be more numerous than those of any of the other prophets. Then after that, we believe in the traverse, the sirat. The traverse is a great bridge of passage that goes from the gathering place, which is the earth, where all human beings have been brought together for the gathering, and it goes over the upper stratum of the fire. So the upper stratum, which is like the surface of the fire, like the surface of the planet, which is the fire. This is called Jahannam. And the traverse goes above that, and the distance of it is very, very long. The Prophet ﷺ described it as like 3,000 years of travel. And the traverse must be crossed. The only way to enter the garden is to go across the traverse. And the prophets lead their communities. The prophets go first, our prophet will go first, and then the Muslims who believed in him come after him. The community of Jesus comes, being led by him. Moses comes, led by his community comes led by him, and so forth. All the prophets, all the messengers. The traverse is very long, and people cross it according to the nature of their deeds. So those people who were upright and who believed and who turned away from evil instantaneously, they didn't entertain it. You've got to train your heart. You turn away from evil whenever you see it and your doubts. They cross it immediately. They cross it at the speed of light, like lightning. Others cross it like a bird flying. Others cross it like a horse, like a strong horse that is running. Others cross it like a man running. Others cross it like a human being walking. Others cross it crawling, and so forth. It is very wide for those who are good, and it is very narrow for those who are evil. And for the disbeliever and for evil people, it is as thin as a hair, and it is as sharp as a sword. And people, it also heaves from time to time. The traverse heaves like a bridge that's in an earthquake, and it throws people from it. On the bridge also are kalalib, there are hooks that swing out and they catch people, and then they take them out over the fire. And those people are sometimes released and brought back to the traverse, and sometimes they fall into the fire. And they may be on the hooks for a very long time. Those who fall into the fire from the traverse fall a distance of 70 years. To fall from the traverse to the fire, which is very, very far below, but you can see it. It is huge. Then you fall for a fall that is like a lifetime, like 70,000 years. That's why the Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that people say things that they pay no attention to. They think it's nothing, but maybe because of a word they say, they fall into the fire a distance of 70 years. In other words, they fall from the traverse to the fire. The last part of the traverse is the most difficult part. And the last part of the traverse is the tie of kinship. That's the most difficult part. Kinship is a huge responsibility. The way that we behave towards our mothers, our fathers, our children, our families, it's very, very important. So this is where you're taken to account at the very end. The garden and the fire. The garden and the fire are the ultimate reward and the ultimate punishment. And they are real, and they exist now. But they will be brought near at that time. The fire is called the fire because of the fact that fire is the most severe type of punishment in it. But it has many types of punishment. The fire is all extremes. It is extreme heat, extreme cold. Fire is not the only thing there, but it is the most notable and the most painful of all the types of punishment that are in hell. Again, this is a standard primordial belief, and the names of hell are very interesting, the different names that people gave to it. The fire is black hot. It was first red hot, then it was made white hot, and then it is black hot. It is much more intense than any heat that we know in this world. It is lightless heat. The top, it has 7 strata. The top stratum is Jahannam. And as we said before, it's like the surface of hell. It's like the earth is to us here. The rest of the fire is below that, in stratums that go down. The word Jahannam means something like the vast depression or the far depth. This is the place where the disobedient believers are punished. And this is, of course, for us, for the Muslim community that follows the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's also for all the believing communities before. The believer who was sinful and who is not forgiven. God can forgive whomever He wills, but the one who is to be punished for the things they did, then they are punished in Jahannam. They're punished on the surface of the fire. And they are released from that punishment by intercession. They are released by the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ, or the prophets of their communities, or of the believers. The believers also have the power of intercession. Below that, and you have the stratum which is called lava, which is the flame, the burning flame. And then below that, there is a third stratum, which is called al-hutama, the grinder or the pulverizer. And below that, there is a fourth stratum, which is called the sa'ir, the intense fire. Below that is a fifth stratum, which is called saqar, damaging heat. Then below that is the sixth stratum, which is called Jahim, al-Jahim, the blaze. And the word jahim in Arabic is used for active fires, for huge active fires, like a forest fire, or often like buildings when they burn, where you have flames on top of flames, and you have rolling flames. And then there is the seventh stratum of the fire, which is called al-hawiyah, the abyss. And this is for the hypocrites. The hypocrites, those who claim to believe but did not believe, may Allah protect all of us from that. They are the worst of all disbelievers, and they are in the lowest part of the fire. The distance between each stratum to the next is 500 to 700 years travel. You know, the fire is huge. It's larger than the sun, it's larger than the earth. There is intense heat, there is intense cold. The people punished in the fire always have consuming hunger and consuming thirst. They're never quenched, they're never fed, but they must eat and they must drink. They are nothing but need, and their need is always unfulfilled. And they are all alone. They don't have families, they don't have lineages. Each one of them is alien, and each one of them is by himself or herself. And they are herded. They are in groups, they are moved in groups, and often they're crowded together. So when you go from one stratum to another, there's one gate, and they all got to pass through that. And then they go down that to the next stratum. In the fire, there are hideous plants, there are harmful insects and serpents, there are beasts, there are fire snakes and fire scorpions, there are beings that are created just for hell. They live there. And everything in the fire is in ecstasy except for the damned. So the damned are in a state of eternal punishment, whether they are human beings or jinn or whatever is punished there. But the fire itself, everything in it, the rocks, the fires, the serpents, the scorpions, they're in a state of ecstasy. They glorify their Lord. The angel in charge of the fire, Malik, and the 19 types of angels that assist him, they are also in a state of glory. But the punishment is there for the disbeliever. The fire is burning air. It is not coal, it is not fuel. And the fire, the people in the fire are actually the substance that makes it burn. And also the idols and the different things that they worshipped. Each pain in the fire is so great that it would render the strongest human being unconscious. And in fact, it would kill them. We couldn't sustain that. The people of the fire, who are also very large, they're hideous, but they're very large, they never get used to the pain, but they are able to sustain it. So they are burned, they are recreated, they are burned, they are recreated, and they suffer the punishment. They never get used to it, they're very strong, but they take the punishment eons after eons forever. The people of the fire are also burned in their hearts. They're not just, the punishment is just not on the outside, it's on the outside and on the inside, and it goes to the heart, and that is the most difficult type of punishment. In all of the things that, the torments of the fire, the greatest torment of all is the fact that you have failed, and that you did not believe, and your life was wasted, and God has turned away from you. You do not see him, you do not have access to him, he does not hear your prayers. So that is the greatest of punishments. All the other things are there, they're real, but if God turned to them, that would be nothing. They could sustain that. The greatest punishment of all is the fact that the people there are forsaken. The people of the fire are black like coal. They're black like jet black. People in this world that are black and white, it means nothing. We're all different types, we're all different colors. Black people can be the most beautiful people. But in the fire, all the people of the fire are coal black, and they have blue eyes. In the fire, there are windows, and the people in the garden have windows that are sort of like, maybe we could compare them to video screens. But the people, and this is very clear in the Quran and the Hadith, that the people in the garden, they are able to see everything in the fire. And through these windows or these screens that they have, you are able to speak with anyone in the fire that you want. So if there were a tyrant, like some of these tyrants that rule the Muslim world today, you can talk to them and they will answer you. But now they will answer you in the truth. There is no falsehood in the next world, and there is no disbelief in the next world. And so you can ask whoever is there, Nimrod or Satan, or we could name people, right? But you can ask them, why did you do this? You know, why were you in the secret police? Why did you torture people? Why did you do these horrible things? And they will tell you everything. And you are the master. The people of the garden are now like emperors and kings. And so they're able to speak to them. They're able to see what they did. One of the most important things about the resurrection and about the judgment and about the garden and the fire is that now the whole human story is revealed. So now you know who were the good, who were the evil, and what did they actually do? What were the great civilizations that were destroyed? Who were the great generations of the past? And who were the evil people? Who are the ones who changed the books? Who are the ones who distorted the religions? Who are the tyrants, and what did they do? What did they do? What are the illusions that they had? The people of the fire have to journey down. So again, like the disobedient believers, they're in Jahannam. They're on the top, and everyone begins in Jahannam that goes there. And then they go down to the level where they stay. And these are millions and millions and millions of people who are driven to this. And they go down step by step. And in the garden, you have darajat. And in the fire, you have darakat. You have darakat, descending degrees. And every step down into the fire makes the step that was above it seem like paradise. The damned go down so that they taste the punishment. They see it until they come to the place where they stay. The people in the fire are herded. They have to drink, they have to eat. They have great needs that are never filled. And they are driven to the places where they drink, and they're driven to the places where they eat at great distances. These are very far away. They're taken there, and they drink of boiling water. They eat of hideous plants that have, and fruits that have heads like serpents and so forth. May Allah protect us from all of that, and may Allah give us the ability to believe in this. You know, you must fear the majesty of your Lord. May He make us upright. May He give us hearts that are pure, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. All of us will see this. There is no human being that will not see the fire. All of us have got to pass over Jahannam, and these are the things that we should live for. The great awliya, they worship Allah not out of fear of the fire, but you should fear the fire. And they worship Allah not out of love for the garden, but you should love the garden. The garden is beautiful and real. If you see it in a dream, the whole world will fade before your eyes for weeks. The garden is beautiful. It's very much like this world, but totally different in its essential nature. When we worship God, not for love of the garden and not for fear of the fire, it's because we do that for something much greater, which is God Himself. But it never means that people like Rabia al-Adawiyya, may Allah be pleased with her, that she didn't believe in the fire. Absolutely not. She knew the fire was real. She was among the kind of people who could see the fire. But still, I do not worship you, my Lord, out of fear of the fire. I worship it because of your majesty. And I do not worship you because of the love of the garden, but I worship it because of your beauty. So this is the highest state. The fire is created and the garden is created. And you don't go from one created thing to another. The highest spiritual progression is to worship Allah because He is Allah, the creator of the garden and the creator of the fire. There are 7 gardens. May Allah put us in those gardens. The highest of the gardens is called Al-Firdaus, and it has a very beautiful name. And the letters Fa, Ra, Dal, which are part of Firdaus, they indicate that Firdaus is absolutely unique, that Firdaus is beyond analogy with anything, even with the rest of the garden. And as the Prophet taught us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the garden there is that which no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and never has occurred to the heart of a human being. The garden is beautiful. The garden is spectacular. And everything in the garden, from the lowest garden to the highest, is beyond comparison with anything you have ever seen. But the greatest thing in the garden is the fact that God loves you. You have won His love. You have won His contentment. You have won His acceptance forever. And therefore also the believers are a community. They are a community of millions of men and women, and all believers have family. Even if a Muslim were a person that entered into the faith and didn't know their mother or father, they were left as orphans or whatever, they will be given their family in the garden. They will be taken back to their mothers, their fathers, of the believers. They all have lineages, and we all belong to prophets. All of us are the descendants of prophets, of Idris and of Nuh. So this is the greatest communion ever. And the great beauty of the garden is being with others, seeing others. What a beautiful fellowship it is. You're never alone in the garden, and it is the great victory. It is the great success. These are the people who understood the meaning of life, and they were not led astray by the illusions and the delusions of this world. May Allah make us that way. We are not here to eat and to drink and to get fat and to have houses and mansions and things like that. If Allah blesses you with wealth, then use this wisely. Put it in your hand. Don't put it in your heart. All of the rivers of paradise come out of Firdaus. The garden is filled with beautiful trees, and under the trees, there are rivers that flow, and there are springs. There is no sun, there is no moon, there is no heat, there is no cold. Everything is perfectly balanced. Everything is beautiful. And all of the rivers, they come from the top and they flow down through the other parts of the garden. And as we said before, you will taste of the garden. May we all be at the quenching pool, the hawd of the Prophet together. May we not be driven away from it as innovators are. And there you taste the first taste of the garden. You're given the water of Kawthar. Firdaus is under the throne of God. So, above it is the throne of majesty. And again, the garden is greater than 7 heavens and 7 earths. It is huge. And you are also huge. You are many times larger than you are here, but you're beautiful. Everyone in the garden has beautiful form. And the men, they don't have beards. They have, they have no hair on their faces. All of the people of the garden have the same age. They're all like about 30, 33, something like that. We all have the same age there. There are no old people in the garden. As the Prophet told the old woman, you remember that there are no old women in the garden, and she began to cry. He said, no, in the garden you'll be a beautiful young woman again. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the second highest garden is called Al-Ma'wa. It's called Al-Ma'wa, which is, we could call it the grand abode. And then under that is Jannat al-Khuld, the garden of eternity. And each of them is absolutely different. And each of them has its people, but we can visit each other. So the Prophet ﷺ is in Firdaus. Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein are in Firdaus. Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman are in Firdaus. May we be there too. But even if we're not, even if we're in the bottom garden, you can still go there. You can visit all of the other ones. You can visit your blessed Prophet. What is that, like 15 minutes? Oh my goodness. And then we have Jannatul Na'im, which is the fourth garden. From the top, the garden of perfect bliss. And then we have Jannatu Aden, the garden of perpetuity. And the garden of Aden, this is the garden of Eden. The word Eden in the Bible is Aden, Aden. It's in Arabic, Aden is Ain Dal Nun, and Aden in the Bible is Ain Dal Nun. But they pronounce it Aden and not Aden. And this is the garden where our father Adam and our mother Eve were before the fall. And then there is the garden Darus Salam. There is the garden of perfect peace. And then the lowest garden, which is infinitely greater than anything in this earth. If you had everything in this earth, all the gold, all the silver, all the health, all the fruit, it's nothing compared to the garden. Absolutely nothing. And this is called Darul Jalal, the house of majesty. And just as in the fire you have darakat, you have these steps of descent, in the garden you have degrees of ascent, darajat. And the people of the garden are white, but not like some of us are called white people. They're white like this. They're white like alabaster or pearl. And they're very beautiful people. And light streams before them. They are people filled with light, and light streams before them. And they're people of the knowledge of God. They are grand, they are noble, they are Adamic. And the greatest thing is the witnessing of God and the hearing of God and the communion with God in paradise. They wear robes of green from silk, different types of silk. Bracelets of gold and silver. We drink wine and honey and milk and water, although there's no drunkenness. Your intellect gets stronger and stronger. One of the greatest things in the garden is speech, because all of us speak perfectly in the garden. And we don't err when we speak. We don't speak nonsense. So the speech of the garden is beyond, it's all perfect speech. There's nothing foul, there's nothing flawed. There's no sickness, there's no cold, there's no death. May Allah put us in the garden, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. Among the other things that we believe in are the jinn and the angels. And maybe we'll just speak about that for a minute. We also believe in the saints and in the miracles of the saints. You don't have to believe in a particular miracle. If you heard that Imam at-Tustari, for example, once went to the bellows and he took a piece of iron, hot iron, out of the bellows and it became cold in his hand. You don't have to necessarily believe in that story. I do. You don't have to, but you have to be aware, because some of the awliya, like Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, their karamat were witnessed by thousands of people. You know, once he would preach to all of Baghdad. And once he was preaching, for example, and he said, if God willed, he could send beautiful green birds that would fly here. And you would see them, birds of paradise. And then these green birds came, and they went up his sleeves, and they went into his garments, and they didn't come out. And everybody saw that. You know, so especially, this is why when you take some of the great saints, like Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, our scholars have said, beware of disbelieving in his karamat, because they were mutawatir. They were witnessed by hundreds and thousands of people. But we must believe in the karamat of the awliya, and we must believe in the awliya, and every believer is a wali. But just every believer, woman and man, is a wali. Inshallah, we are all awliya here, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, but the awliya have higher and higher stations, just like the garden has higher and higher stations. We believe in the angels who are infallible. They are mukallaf. They are still mukallaf. They have moral and legal responsibility, but they do not disobey God. In the scale of balance, the deeds of the angels are not weighed, the deeds of the prophets are not weighed, and the deeds of those great believers who are not reckoned are also not weighed. So, for example, in our ummah, the first of us to have his deeds weighed will be Umar ibn al-Khattab. Abu Bakr, his deeds will not be weighed because they're too heavy. It's not fair. And the Prophet's deeds are too heavy, and the angels, they just go to the garden. But Umar, he receives his book on the Day of Judgment, and it lights up the whole mawqif. And he has powerful good deeds, and his will be weighed in the scales of light. The angels have no gender. They are not male, they are not female, they're not neuter. They are pure intellect. And there are 10 special angels that we believe in. All of these things are really beautiful to talk about in detail. May we be able to do that sometime. We believe in Jibreel, who is the highest of the angels, Gabriel. He's called an archangel, meaning he's a head angel. Then you have Mikael, Michael. And you remember his name means what? I am not like God. He's beautiful, but his name means I am not like God. And Israfil, who is the angel of life. He is the one who comes to when the mother is, when the fetus is developing, then he is the one who comes and who writes the provision of the baby and the time allotted to the baby and so forth. And he's also the one who blows the trumpet, the sur, which is a huge trumpet of light, and it has in it billions of notes, and each note is a human soul. He blows the trumpet. Sur and surah are related. The trumpet and human form are related. And he will blow the trumpet on the Day of Judgment, and everything dies. Nothing lives. And the earth then is restructured. All the mountains are removed, the planets, the continents are brought together. And then 40 years later, he blows the trumpet again. And when he hits your note, you come to life. You have a note. When he hits your note, you come to life. And then you have Azrael, who is the angel of death. Munkar and Nakir. Munkar is you could say, the reprehender, and Nakir is the reprehensible. And these are angels who are the ugliest and most frightening things in creation for the disbeliever. There is nothing more frightening than Munkar and Nakir, and they are black with blue eyes. And when they speak, fire comes out of their mouths. But may we never see them that way. For the believer, they are beautiful. And they test you in the grave. We believe in the test of the grave. And what do they test you about in the grave? Aqeedah. This is why you have to know your aqeedah. They don't ask you about salat. They ask you about belief. Who was your Lord? What was your religion? Who was your prophet? And they can ask you again and again. And sometimes Munkar asks all the questions and Nakir listens. And sometimes Nakir asks the questions and Munkar asks. And sometimes they both ask the questions. So you've got to know your aqeedah. You've got to know your belief. Then there are the angels, Raqib and Atid. Raqib is the preserver, or he is also the observer, and Atid is the one who's present. or also the one who's always ready. And these are angels that you have always with you that record everything you do. They record your thoughts, they record your sneezes, your coughs, your thoughts, everything. And your book is put together by them. And the believer, when he or she dies, the two angels sit at their grave and ask that they be forgiven. Then we believe in Malik, who is the angel of the fire, and he has with him 19 other angels, and Ridwan, who is the angel of paradise. It's interesting that in the Bible, there is no mention of hell, but the Jews believe in hell. The Jews have many different books. The Bible says that. They made their book Qaratis. They made it different books. It's not all in one. So the Bible we have today is mostly a history book. It does have other things in it, but it's mostly history. And in it, it talks about Sheol. So if you read certain things about the Jews, you'll say, well, they didn't believe in hell, they believed in Sheol. What does the word Sheol mean? Who is really good in Semitic linguistics? It's very close to an Arabic word. It's perfectly related to another Arabic word. Sheol. No, it's Sheol with Hamza. So usually Hebrew sheen will be Arabic seen. Like we say Shams, they say Shemesh. Okay, Sheol. So the sheen, you can make seen. The O is going to be a, su'al. See, Sheol is su'al. And this is what they call the grave, because you're going to be questioned in the grave. So when it says that he went into Sheol, meaning he went into his grave, and then sometimes they would say hell. It's not hell. It is the su'al. It is where you will be questioned by the angels. The Jews definitely believe in that. The rabbis do. And any of the rabbis, if you do not believe in the resurrection of the dead, if you do not believe in heaven and hell, you are a kofir. What is a kofir? Kafir. Yeah, that's what they say. And we also believe in the hafadah, the protecting angels. We believe in the jinn. The jinn are created spirits like us, except that we are from clay and they are from pure fire. They also have intellect. They have power of language. They have great powers of language. They are mukallaf, just like you and me, except many scholars say they are mukallaf from the time they are created. They have subtle bodies. Angels have subtle bodies of light. Angels can take beautiful forms. They can take beautiful, beautiful forms. They can be beautiful horses. They can be beautiful human beings. The jinn can also take human form. And the jinn can, especially evil jinn, they can take the form of serpents, snakes, and they can take the form of dogs and other things, scorpions and things like that. The jinn have believers and disbelievers. Usually the word jinn is used for believing spirits, and shayateen, devils, is used for disbelieving spirits. Ifrit is usually used for a scholar of the jinn. The Ifrit, they know all sorts of things, how to do all sorts of things. Iblis is one of the jinn. And we believe in Iblis, Satan, may God preserve us from him. And it's said that he lived 185,000 years before he fell. And he was with the angels during that time. He was called the treasure keeper of the garden for 40,000 years. He lived with the angels for 80,000 years. He preached directly to the angels for 10,000 years. He was the khatib, Yawm al-Jumu'ah. He was with the cherubims for 30,000 years. He was the Lord of the Ruhaniyin for 1,000 years. The Ruhaniyin are a type of spiritual being that are between angels and jinn. Sometimes in dreams you see them as ants, but they're Ruhaniyin. He was with them for 1,000 years. He did tawaf around the throne for 14,000 years. He was called the worshipper in the first heaven. He was called the Abbad. He was called the Zahid, the self-denier, in the second heaven. He was called the true knower of God, the Arif, in the third heaven. He was called the true friend of God, the Wali, in the fourth heaven. He was called the heedfully righteous, the muttaqi, in the fifth heaven. He was called the treasure keeper in the sixth, and he was called in the seventh, Azazil, the glory of God. And all the angels thought that he was the greatest, and he thought he was the greatest too. And his kufr, his hypocrisy, was hidden, and it comes out with the creation of Adam. Very, very interesting story. And of course, in this, there are lessons for us, never to take our faith for granted. So let's end now by reciting these last verses. So he says here, number 16, وَكُلُّ ذَا مُسْتَجْمِعٌ فِي كَلِمَةٍ جَعَلَهَا الرَّبُّ لِكُلٍّ خَاتِمَةٍ. He says, all of this teaching is brought together in a single phrase. وَكُلُّ ذَا مُسْتَجْمِعٌ فِي كَلِمَةٍ. All of this teaching is brought together in a single phrase. What is that? La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The most precious words in creation. May the Lord جَعَلَهَا الرَّبُّ لِكُلٍّ خَاتِمَةٍ. May the Lord make it for each of us the final word we say in our lives. Ameen, ameen, ameen. May we die with these words on our lips, and may we, you die the way you lived. So live a good life. صَلَّى عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ وَمَنْ غَدَى مِنْ حِزْبِهِ. God extol Muhammad and the believers who follow him, his companions, and whoever comes to be of his party. 18. سَمَّيْتُهَا عَقِيدَةَ النَّجَاءِ لِكَوْنِهَا تُنْجِي مِنَ الْبَلَاءِ. So he said, I name this poem the Creed of Deliverance, because it delivers us from every distress. And what is the greatest distress of all? Munkar and Nakir. Munkar and Nakir. You recite to them Aqidat al-Najah. قال محمد هو ابن جعفر لقب كتان عليه قد جرى. Right? Memorize the poem. Ya Munkar, Ya Nakir. Inshallah, Munkar and Nakir will be beautiful when you see them. Beautiful when you see them. وضعتها لجملة الأطفال وقاصر النساء والرجال. I wrote it down for children in general and for women and men with limited time. This is a beautiful poem, and again, it comes out of the heart of one of the most precious and knowledgeable scholars of the 19th and 20th century. He wrote it as an act of worship. He wrote it as a deliverance for you and me, and he means that, he believes that, and he knows that. If you memorize this poem, you know it, now you have fulfilled your first obligation, and now you will do your prayer, your fasting, all goes higher and higher and higher. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal, to give us certain belief. And again, one of the questions is asked a lot. Your questions are precious, and I really appreciate them a lot. I'm sorry that we don't have time. We have limited time. We are men and women with limited time, and we will limit our time right now. But, we believe in God in order to practice this belief. So we just end with, what is that practice? This practice is fear and hope. If you do not fear your Lord, you do not know your Lord. And the fire is real. You must believe in it. You must think about it, and you must fear the Lord of Majesty who put that destiny there for many human beings. And you must hope that God will guide you and forgive you, and He will, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. These are the two sandals. We have to turn back to Him in tawbah over and over again. Ramadan is at the door. You can feel it, right? It's only like 10 days away. So when this great guest comes, we all do tawbah, live in the Quran, live in the Quran and take in the greatness of this month. And when you do dhikr, think about what it means. then we fill our lives, inshallah, with thankfulness and steadfastness. Be thankful. Look at all of us, how well we are. As Sheikh Hamza said, we are able to come all the way here to Istanbul from our countries without highway robbers, without disease, without sickness. Incredible. Give thanks for all the good that you have. And if you count your blessings, they are infinite. And be steadfast, because you are tested also. We will be tested. The acceptance of the decree and destiny. Everything that happens is by the will of God. We are not passive, we are active. We have a law that we follow. But if God makes me sick, I will accept that. If God deprives us, we will accept that. And we will do the best that we can do. We must live in the present. Live in the presence of God. Be mindful of your Lord and be mindful of the miracle of the world around you. Think about these things. Nothing happens by chance. Everything that exists is a veil of God's power. It is a veil of God's wisdom, of His knowledge, of His will. May we be awake. We must follow the believing men and women. The most important thing is the company of people. Seek out the company of men and women like yourselves who elevate your state, and be with them. Purify the heart from other than God. The heavens and earth cannot contain me, but the heart of my believing servant contains me. Empty your heart of everything. We believe in the garden. We believe in the fire. We believe in the judgment. And may this belief grow until it is certain, absolutely certain. But we worship God for Himself. And all of these things should be out of our heart. There are different kinds of light that God sends you. There are lights that come to your heart and they guide you. And they open your heart so that you can truly believe. And there are other lights that go in your heart and fill your heart forever. But they only go in your heart if there's nothing there. If there's anything there, attachment to my job, my career, my wealth, whatever it may be, they don't go in. They're like little birds that come, and the birds first see that there are no cats, there's nothing else, and then they go to the feeder to eat. So fill your hearts with those lights and rid our hearts of other than God. Nothing is worthy of worship but Him. Praying in the night, may Allah enable us to do that, to be able to keep vigils. And constant dhikr. May our tongues be always moist with the remembrance of God. And dhikr must be connected to fikr, to reflection. And again, you have this beautiful poem. What was the first belief that He gave us? You are created from nothing. All of this is created from nothing. And now we believe that. We know that. Life is a miracle. And then go through the attributes, necessary existence, pre-existence, everlastingness, self-sufficiency, dissimilarity, oneness, life, knowledge, will, power, hearing, seeing, speech. Remember the prophets. He granted us special distinction through the best of creation, those with preeminence. And then the garden, the fire, this incredible world that God has created us in. Think. Don't just say the words, think about the words. And then, being vigilant, protecting our hearts, and rising up to the waymarks of perfection, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. May Allah enable us to be the best human beings that we can possibly be, and to lead long and good lives. And you are all very talented people. And we have a lot of work to do. We have got to speak, we have got to write, we have got to produce, we've got to build the institutions we have. The Rihla is an institution. We've got to get it going stronger and better and keep it going. We have lots of things to do. And as we said before, and as many great scholars have said, you are the most remarkable generation of Muslims, in centuries. And never has there existed a minority of Muslims in powerful non-Muslim countries like we have today in the United Kingdom, or in France or Germany, or in Canada or the United States or Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and other countries. Okay, we are capable people. We are talented people. We have got to deliver this message. The prophets deliver the message completely. What did you do with it? You received it completely, right? So you have to give it too. May Allah enable us to live this message and deliver this message. Ameen. اللهم وفقنا لما تحبه وترضى وجعلنا من عبيدك السعداء وأمتنا على كلمة الهدى علمنا ما ينفعنا ووفقنا للعمل بما علمتنا به واجعل ما نحن فيه خالصا مخلصا لوجهك الكريم يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل تجمعنا هذا تجمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا بعده تفرقا معصوما لا شقيا منا ولا محروما آمين 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 يا رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم. Very honored, to have been with you these beautiful days, and inshallah, may we see each other again. Yes, Sidi Yahya. I couldn't hear you. Do I give ijazah? I would give it on an individual basis. Memorize the poem, learn the poem. You can get my contact information, inshallah, and then I can examine you and give you ijazah, inshallah. And there's some people here who've said they wanted that. So, inshallah, I'd be happy to give it, but I want you to learn it, and I want you to understand it, and then you can have ijazah, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. You want to have the dua to come back, inshallah. We can do that, inshallah. Okay, so this is a verse that was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Juhfa, al-Juhfa. This was when the Prophet was making his migration to Medina, and he left the most wonderful city in the world to him. He is al-Tihami, he is al-Makki, which is Mecca, and God promised him that you will come back. When he came to Juhfa, Allah revealed the verses, إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. Verily He, God, who made the Qur'an an obligation for you, and therefore you have to make hijrah, because He commanded you to do it, لَرَادُّكَ, He will certainly bring you back to Mecca at an appointed time. So this verse has a secret, that if you say it, you will come back together. So if you like, we can do that. We stand up, and when I say Radduka, step forward with your right foot. Okay? Bismillah. Bismillah. Inna alladhi farada alayka al-Qur'ana laradduk ila ma'ad. So we come back together. And inshallah here. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.